Right, everybody, it's Anthony Brogdon, host of Strong Inspirations, where I give it to you straight, no chasing. It is my aim to give you Black history from all angles. Let me tell you a little background. Back in 2020, at the real beginning of well, really, I guess it was 21, but at the onset of the COVID virus, everything was shut down. And so I thought what I could do to keep Black history alive in my own little way. And so I decided to host this broadcast, Strong Inspirations. And if you look at it, I'm over 500 videos from around the world, and I'm excited about doing this broadcast because it allows me to be enlightened by the people who come on the show, to uh, have them tell their stories as they so see fit. And for example, I have Frederick Douglass's great grandson on the show. I have Ida B. Wells' grandson. I have Madam C.J. Walker's great granddaughter on the show. I found a guy who, out of Scotland, England, his great grandfather was one of the largest enslavers, and they allow me to interview. And so after this, I invite you to, look at the uh, the videos on Strong Inspirations, and watch them as you see fit. You can move the cursor wherever you want to because they're an hour long, because I can't shorten them telling the story. So then about 4 weeks ago, I decided, what else can I do? I got this platform and I want to expand it. And so what I decided to do was do these live shows. So I'm doing them every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I pick a topic for each show. And today's topic is, do Black people like and appreciate Black history? And because we get a lot of it in February, and then there are people who complain that, well, it's the shortest month in certain parts of the country, it's the coldest month. They give you all these events in February, and then they sometimes act like there's no more Black history until the following February. And we know that's not the case. And it's not the case, if nothing else, for what I do here is Strong Inspirations. And so I talk about Black history all the time. I speak about it as I tour the country, telling and speaking at different places. I talk about a book that I've written. That's the book, everybody, Black Business Book. I got a children's book on this topic, and then I always look for people to come on the show. So I'm new at doing this live, and so what I want to do is, I'm gonna do a little talking, but if you want to chime in, there's a way you can, raise your hand and let's make some comments. It's just not me talking about, what do you think? Do Black people appreciate Black history? And I'm gonna start it in this regard. There are times where I'm got a vending booth and I'm selling my book. I'll see somebody who walked past and they got a I like Black history T-shirt on, or just a Black person in general. And I can understand everybody doesn't read. I can understand everybody is not into Black history. I can understand everybody saying, I don't have the money to buy the book, so I don't want to stop. But it just seems to me where I'll even say, you ain't got to buy the book, just take a car. And there'll be people who still will walk past. And there have been people, I'm talking about Black folks, that feel like they're bothered by me even talking about Black history. So does anybody who's on the show get that same impression? What's your take on how people feel about it? You got a comment? I can unmute you.
Anthony,
Yes. Hey, how you doing, David? Here.
I definitely have a comment because I have a foundation. I always come out as a vendor in the community to raise consciousness about our history. The thing is, you can show somebody a picture and say, look, do you see this? But they can't see it because their consciousness don't see what you see. And there's a lot of people that look like us. Unfortunately, they look like us and they don't recognize that. They're not in that level. They're not on that level at that time. So all you can do is plant the seed. But our history is just as important as education. So if you think education is important, then our history is important just as much as our education. Because when you go into any place in America, you see history all around you that don't look like us. And most of our history has been whitewashed. So it's important that we take the onus to share our history. And you're doing that on this show and what you've been doing. So I applaud you for doing something about it.
Let me ask you this, Dave. Let me ask you this. Do you get frustrated when they don't talk to you? What's been your reaction?
No, my reaction is there are somebody who tell me, brother, I'm glad you out here because we need people like you. So it's it's like we got to pave the road, taking on the responsibility to pave the road for the next generation because everybody don't see what we see and want to do something about it. See, by actually going out there and actively playing a part, because people do a lot of talking, but when you get out there and play a role on a regular basis, doing things like what you're doing, what I'm doing, that's a good thing because they need people like us. Because a lot of people do a lot of talking and there's no action behind their talk. I've been around doing what I'm doing since 1991 by getting involved with Black history. And I found my purpose and direction in life. And then I started my foundation. It goes on and on and on.
Let me ask the audience this. Uh, how did you come to like Black history in the first place? Anybody got a comment in that regard? And I'll unmute you if you're muted or what have you. It's just a few of us here.
While he's fine, I can go to. I think there's a couple of things I feel about this. One, I'm just going to give you this example, quick example. A lot of us don't know our history because we think we do, but we really don't. And what I mean by that, it was a lot of people to recently that did not understand Juneteenth.
That's right.
Just from, and my mother, who was older, who been through the school system, who lived through that time, but because she was up north, it wasn't information. And people sometimes feel like, okay, I know Black history because I know about slavery, or they know a little bit about Black history.
Right.
But it's so much to it that,
right. That's right.
And like I say, so when you think you know it all, then you feel like nobody else can teach you anything until you understand that you don't know it. You don't even know 80% of our history. That's because right. We only know what we've been taught. We only know about the people that we focus on each year. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the riots. We just know we know like 20% of our history. A lot of people, but they in their minds, they think they know all about it. Did that make sense to you?
Yeah,
what I'm trying to say.
I get that all the time.
When you don't know that it's so much more to it, then you're not gonna seek it. So I don't know. The seed has to be planted, and we have to have we have to have this talk. We have to educate ourselves because it's not in our books. It's not, sometimes it's not even in our family.
That's right.
to
Let me
pass
ask you this:
down.
how did you get to the point that you got an appreciation for
Well, I guess because I've been in education for so long,
it? Okay.
and I knew it was more. So I wanted to learn more.
Okay.
I took initiative because I knew what we was missing, you know, from being in education. I knew it had to be something than the same things that we was taught when I was a little girl. The
Okay.
5 people, I call them the 5 people. That's all to us. Is these
Yeah.
5 people?
Yeah. Right.
Because
Right.
they teach the same people over
That's
and
right.
over and over and over again. And they think they have taught us something about Black history.
Right.
No, you
That-
taught us about 5% of our history.
That's right. Less than that. Let you chime in,
No,
Herman.
okay. Excuse me, guys. I did right when I was getting ready to speak, something crazy happened to my computer and a bunch of things jumped in front of it. I had to figure it out. But anyway, um, I think, of course, that I'm frustrated exactly about that. The 5 people she was just talking about on Black History Month, as if that's all we are worth. Is that those 5 people um, is the percentage of people who actually matter, which is not true. That's another a way to lie, continue the lie about who we are. So it is really up to us, to tell the story. It comes down to us
Let me ask you
because,
this: what's the 5 people that you know of that they talk
well, I
about?
was saying 5 because she said 5,
I
but
know, but who?
I can name 5.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King. Who else? Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, um, Benjamin Banneker, or that's others. I can name 10,
Yeah. Yeah.
20, but
Yeah.
they bring those same people out as if we should be proud of those guys, we should be proud of those people, and they water it down. But once you start investigating a little bit more, you understand that there were a plethora of people who were courageous enough to stand up for the injustices that was happening in this country. And so many people did so many more remarkable things that we're just now finding out. Now, one of the things that we did, we started a museum here in Mount Bayou.
Yeah.
But
Tell us a little bit about it, for those who don't know.
okay, so let me just tell you about the museum and what I was about to say. I'll tell you a little bit about Mount Bayou, but
Yeah.
what I was about to say is that because we are just now learning, I think in this age, in this time span, we're just now learning about our history. Then we start thinking about the fact that what we're doing now is exposing history, exposing what has been. It's been whitewashed for hundreds of years. We've been told lies for hundreds of years. So as we are exposing the history, we're changing the name of our museum, or we're trademarking the word to Exposeum, because now is that time span where we got people of our level, people of our age group, and even younger, who are finding out history that we never knew. you know. And so I'm from Mound Bayou, Mississippi. I don't know how many people have heard of that, but it's probably the most remarkable story in African American history. And we call it our holy ground for the whole diaspora, because the founding of the city starts on a plantation out of Vicksburg. And the men and women that were on that plantation um, ended up being very educated on the plantation. And they were also business people while they were still on the plantation. They had stores, they had other businesses, and they became very, some became like engineers, lawyers, not in title, but in education. And at the end of the war, they end up buying the plantation they used to be enslaved on. And that plantation or the area that it was on in Davis Bend, south of Vicksburg, was the area. There was two plantations there. Well, actually four. But anyway, for this story, two plantations. Joseph Davis, and the other plantation was owned by Jefferson Davis, or run by Jefferson Davis. And we know Jefferson Davis is the president of the Confederacy. Well, he was a goofball. Actually, they bet on him to lose. And the reason that he could go to Virginia and take over the Confederacy as the president was because of a black man down there named Benjamin Montgomery, who ran his plantation and ran it in a pristine manner.
Oh,
So,
really? Okay.
oh yeah, that's the reason he was able to go. So Benjamin Montgomery was a very intelligent person, a visionary, and so he ended up buying that plant. He ended up buying all those plantations at the end of the war, and he developed the highest rate of cotton in the world.
The black man did.
The black man. Yeah, we talking about black folks now.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
Let me get back to the topic only in this regard. Who comes to your museum? Do black people come to your museum?
Yeah, some black people come. Yeah, yeah.
Mostly white though.
We have white people today. Yeah, we have white folks. We have people from all over the world, really.
What's the reaction from black people when they come? Are they surprised to hear the story? Do they say, "Oh man, we don't believe it"? What's some of the responses you've got?
Well, it relieves a lot of people, because a lot of people are under the impression that has been given to them for all these years that, we were a lot of the things that they said we were. You know what I'm saying? The majority population. And also, in reality, if you're fed a steady diet of certain things every day, and implicitly or covertly, they're telling you certain things subliminally,
Right.
that you are second class, then you tend to believe that after a while. But once they hear the story of Mound Bayou, people understand that here's a place where none of that was true.
Oh man.
Everybody here was in this place was, they even in the 1800s or late 1800s and 1900s, you got black people who are the mayor, the chief of police, they're the store owners, they own all the businesses there. And actually in this city, in Mississippi, the wealthiest people in the state were the people in Mound Bayou at one time.
Let me ask you before I go to the next person, let someone else just on this regard. Do you wish that more black people, your place should be flooded.
Right.
Do you think that, what's your take on that? More people, you're here and more people going to hear about it with you being here and being on the show also. But you wish more people, your place should be like a national landmark for Black history.
Well, I think that's going to come. I tell people now, if you recall some years ago, maybe less than 10 years ago, most of us may have heard of Black Wall Street, but there were a lot of people in the country. Most of the majority of the country had never heard of Black Wall Street. And then when Trump went over there and started to do something over at, at the time that he did it and exposed it to the country because of what he was doing, now everybody knows.
I think it was Trump, and I think it was the movie.
It could have been the movie, but everybody, it was still there was a lot of the white folks that still did not know.
Yeah.
Until it was exposed in the news media.
Yeah.
But and then also Juneteenth. Even though a lot of us knew, who pay attention to the history, the majority population did not know. And now it's a national holiday. And so I think the same thing would happen with Mound Bayou.
Yeah. What's the ideal Black person that, if you had a demographic, and someone else chime in on this also, if you had a demographic, what's the ideal Black person who might like Black history? Is he that guy with the dashiki? He's that guy that Rastafarian, and I'm not trying to put no labels, but I'm trying to give you an understanding. What is he or she? Did they go to a Black Baptist church? They,
Anthony, I didn't hear the question. What was the question?
I said, what is the black, what kind of guy or what kind of lady is that who likes Black history?
I think it's the
It's
type of person whose family has talked about it. Because after you hear something, it goes back to that. If you hear the same thing that's depressing, slavery, slavery, but you have people who's teaching their children that we was more than just slaves. We was business owners. They get exposed to it. They can't get exposed to it at school. So the only place I can think of the exposure come from is from the family, from from grandparents being educated, from mothers being educated families. I would say educated. Your education has a lot to do with.
But the reason why I say that is I've run into people who said, and they their parents might not have been educated. They didn't want to go back down south, so they don't talk about that experience. My parents never, my mom never wanted to go back to Tennessee from where she lived. I never heard my mom or dad really talk about Black history.
Right, because like I say, they only knew the depressing part of it. So would you want to talk about it? Would you want to go back to a place that all you know is evil being done to you and your family? Would you? I mean, you wouldn't want. I just feel like people wouldn't want to learn that. That would be a turnoff. But when you get them exposed to June 19th, how we was billionaires, how we ran a city, how we had banks, how we had different things. A lot of people don't know that. Like you say, they turned off from the South because all they know is the stories they have heard, how bad it was.
But let me add that, and
Experience.
you're exactly right. But let me say this: I remember in the '60s with the Afro. That the Afro was a sense of pride in some. I couldn't grow one, but the Afro was, in all honesty, the Afro was a sense of blackness. And then you had the Black Fist sign, and then it went from the Black Fist to now you got and they psyched me out with the Black Panthers. I thought they made them sound like they weren't good. And that until I saw the movie, how they were feeding the kids and what they really stood for. So that media really psyched us out. But we went through those phases, and then James Brown singing that song, "I'm Black and I'm Proud." That heightened the whole attitude. Any thoughts, anybody?
Yes, I got a thought. Well, I'm older than a lot of people. I'm older than you anyway, Anthony. I came up in the 60s and 70s. And when I came up, we had something known as the Black Arts Movement and the Black Power Movement of the 60s and 70s is when the masses of African Americans started to embrace their Africanness. And they would wear dashikis, they would have Black beauty contests with the natural look. They began to write poetry and plays about Black life and how it was. Black beauty was being redefined by us. And then you have people like Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, Huey Newton. So Black people, it was the Black Power movement. So that was right in our face. It was raising our conscious level. But what happened, they poured drugs into our community and a lot of the movement began to die down with the drugs. And then you got the Soul Train came in there, people started partying. So we began to move away from the Black Power movement. The Pan-African movement is a part of that too, where Pan-Africa is like outside of the United States. So that movement is still resonates today, but not with all people. History is told by those who control its interpretation. Those who control its interpretation don't look like us. If you drink the Kool-Aid, then you don't see yourself. They'll program you from the moment you're born till you die. So if you're comfortable in that space, and a lot of people are, they don't want to hear anything about Black history. They want to see the football game, and they want to do that. they're not ready. They don't see that. They don't feel that because it's not in their face. They got to step out of their comfort zone and begin to realize how America has always been whitewashed, and you got to do something about it. And the next generation will continue to be in that same space if we don't do nothing about it.
Did the Black Power movement help though?
Yes, it did. Indeed, it helped us. It raised our awareness. We start coming together and doing things together. We never got to the point where we want to because a lot of those leaders got killed. And I'm quite sure you know a lot of those leaders, their names and so forth, they were taken down. But that movement still resonates today for those who have that consciousness. Right. So if you're in that comfort zone and you don't want to see yourself out of those spaces, you're going to still, you're not going to feel, Black history, Black heritage. You're not going to feel that because you're in that comfort zone.
Let me say this also. Other than the Black Panthers and those Black movies, we went through a period where we had those Black, and they use this term, that's what they call them, exploitation movies. And I didn't understand why you call them that. Just because Pam Grier was playing that a Black powerful woman trying to stop some of the crime in the community, they titled it something else to made it so that we didn't like it so much. Gave it a undertone to the title.
Well, that was because it was emphasizing life as if that was another trick. It was emphasizing life as if American Black culture was just pimping, drugs. And if you see that film and then the next film that you see is the same genre, and then the next one you see is the same genre, then you tend to start feeling that's all Black people are. That's right. their whole game, and you don't see the rest of it, what the families, the amount of things that they were doing that in the positive, you don't see that.
You did see it in the movie with Bill Cosby and was it Sidney Poitier?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that one?
They did several movies together, didn't they?
Yeah, they did several movies together. You did see some sense of it in Sounder in some of those movies with Cicely Tyson.
Yeah.
And I remember one of them really having an effect on me, but all of the stuff that we saw, for the most part, was kind of degrading. And from, I don't know how to put it, it didn't show the best light of Black people.
But who was controlling that? They was the one that was controlling that, putting that out in front of us.
Do you think that led Black people, that turned Black people off to not want to seek out Black history? Come on, Keith, say something, man.
Yeah. So, so I was listening to you guys. Like I said, I just came from Rome. And the history that they have in Rome dates way, 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 way back. And our history in America, as far as Black people, I hear it dates way back to Moors. I don't know anything about any Moors. Is that something, history that you think that Black people in America should have knowledge of? Where would you get that knowledge, and why would a person want to seek that knowledge?
The Moors ruled Spain for 700 years, and they were from Northern Africa.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And so that is part of your history. That is part of the motherland. That is part of the continent. And maybe, we can't nail it down totally, but you might be a descendant from that.
It might be.
From Algeria or from, I can't think of the other countries right now. But the Moors were powerful people. And that is a piece of history that you should know.
That's right. The one thing that when we talked about earlier, the 5 people that they talk about, then let's go to 10. The one thing that they did tell us was about Africa, but they didn't make Africa They didn't make it in the brightest light either.
Nope.
And depending upon how old you were, when you saw something about Africa, it was usually a picture of the natives that were there, the people, the indigenous people there, taking the big white hunter someplace, and that's
right.
what you saw.
Tarzan.
And then later you might have seen a picture of some people who were enslaved. I don't know exactly when you began to see, more pictures or just including George Washington Carver, and showing what he did with the peanut. You never saw anyone, no, I can't even think of any names. You never heard anything about Ida B. Wells. You never heard about the first Black person to sail, who had an international pilot's license. You never heard about the fact that Sarah Boone created the dustpan. You didn't hear about any of those things.
That's right.
And if you heard about them, you were lucky because your parents said something. I was fortunate in that my parents would say a little bit, and it was the first thing I remember.
Let me ask you, how did they say?
The first,
you sit at the dinner table and they brought it up. I want
to
invite
because
you.
we said, right, we were at the table. I probably said something about not seeing any people that look like me. I probably didn't phrase it that way, but I said something, and my mother immediately told me that there was a governor of Louisiana who was the first Black governor in the country.
That's right.
His name was PBS Pinchback.
That's right.
I couldn't wait to get back to school to tell everybody. Now I'm in a white school. I couldn't wait to get back to tell them. And then as one thing led to another, I got more bits and pieces. They never talked about the lynching and, how people were mistreated, at least not directly. They would refer to it, but they would move on. They wouldn't they wouldn't dwell on it. And I can imagine they didn't want to because it was so painful.
Yeah. Like I say, my mom, she never went back to Tennessee.
Oh no, well, we went back. We went back many, many times. I stayed down in Louisiana for a minute, a lot of times every summer. So I got some of it. But I know that my cousins who were living there got more of it because they were there in the South. And I know that one of my cousins, an older cousin, was a teacher. She talked about the things that Black people did. She talked about who was mayor, who was running. She talked about, who was the first council person and et cetera in that area all the time.
Does Black history make people feel bad?
It depends on what you.
Yeah, it depends upon who you're talking about. And what's his name over in Florida? He says it makes his people feel bad. Well, I guess it would. It made us feel bad too. So
yeah,
it's not anything that will make you feel good.
But not the way they have
Black history in America is put it that way.
Well, not the way they put it. Not the way they put it, but there's so much.
How would you put it? How would you put it to make it?
There's a lot for me to be proud of. Oh my God, there's a lot for me to be proud of. Because we were landowners, because we were politicians, because we did this, because we owned businesses, because we had millionaires, because we did everything anybody did, and anything that has grown and blossomed in this country has been on the back of Black African Americans.
Are you looking at a PC computer?
No, I'm looking at what I know.
I'm asking this brother here. Are you on a PC computer?
Me?
Keith.
This brother here.
Talking Keith, yeah.
I'm on the Mac.
Okay. Mark Dean holds 3 original patents of the PC computer. Did you know that?
Do I know that? No.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that we doing right in here today that was invented by Black people. You take GPS. Do you take GPS? Use GPS?
Everybody does. Yep.
That's right. That's invented by a Black woman named Gladys West. Do that make you feel bad? Hell no, that makes me feel
Wait,
good.
wait a minute. I'm talking about the slavery part
Now leave
of
that alone.
history.
Move away from the
Now if we
slavery.
talking about these
Let's
other,
move into the modern age.
No, hold on. We can stay on the slavery.
Hold
I
on.
don't want to talk about, I want to move into the modern age.
Hold on.
They want to keep us in the slavery.
Hold on for a minute.
Hold on, Dave.
Hold on for a minute. Now, if we want to talk about these other things, these things do make us feel good, but I don't want to be interrogated about, do I know these things? I do want to know these things that make you feel good, because I know about all those things too that make you feel good. But I want to know about, what are we talking about here? These good things, bad things, the history things, just like the subject that's at hand. Why do people like or not like history?
Because they don't know.
They don't know. What was it, a systematic thing that the white man did to us, like so many others? Did they sit around the table and come up with, this is how we're gonna make them feel bad?
Yes.
I think they did.
Oh,
And they're
absolutely.
still doing that today.
Well, it's the curriculum. It's what you teach people. Kids like to be in, kids get excited about new things or things they're interested in. Who wants to be interested in slavery if that's all they hear? You know, that's not interesting. But you see how we all got excited when that gentleman was spitting off, you know, the black man did this. It made you feel good. But they don't teach things to make black kids
They're
feel
not going to
good
teach that. They're not going
in
to teach that.
in the school system. And so when you lack that interest, if you don't have it, like Sure was blessed. He grew up in a healthy family that no, they didn't they forgot about what they went through. They took out the positive thing. They fed her with positivity that gave her hope, that gave her pride. See, Black power and all that, that was like, okay, for a minute, but it wasn't no education with that.
Did you get some positive black history growing up?
No, I'm telling you, I've been in education for so long. What they was teaching on Black History Month has been a 20-year curriculum. At least a 20-year curriculum, because they talk about the same thing.
Could you
Year after
interject
year after
anything?
year after year.
Were you able to interject anything?
No.
Well, I was. I did it in my classroom.
Okay.
I taught government and history.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry. I thought he was talking about when I was a child.
No,
No,
yeah, I'm talking
now
about as
that
a
I'm
teacher.
older. No, as a teacher, yes. As I learned, I inform my children. You know, and Black history is just not in February. It could be when we're learning, when we're reading. My reading materials, you know, not me from getting my children reading materials that I feel would encourage them in some form. Nothing stops me
Let me
because
ask
of the internet.
let me ask the two teachers here. When you said those things, did you get pushed back by the administration, or were they encouraging them?
Okay,
but
I have to tell you from my point of view, I have a little bit more flexibility because I work with small groups. So it's a little bit different because I don't have that kind of pressure. So you would really have to talk to like a teacher who specified in a specific topic, or, you know, a homeroom teacher. I'm not that. So I do have a little bit more freedom. I have to say that, to
Right.
pick my materials.
Okay, S lady.
I interspersed whatever I thought was necessary to show that Black people were there doing something. If I knew it, I tried to share it with them. And I tried to make it fit with whatever we were doing. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. And the pushback, the first time I started, a little girl said, I don't want to hear about no jungle bunnies. I said, oh, is that what you call yourself, a jungle bunny? Oh my God. Okay, everyone remember that she's a jungle bunny, but we're going to talk about the greatness of who we are, from whence we came. And that's how I started that conversation. And she never said that again. And no child that came in my classroom ever said that to me again.
What was the parents' reaction? Did you get any?
Well, oh, I met some of them, and some of them. Okay, first of all, at that time, parents did not come out to parent-teacher conferences like they should. So the ones I saw were the ones I saw all the time throughout the year. And so if they knew what I was talking about in the classroom, they supported it. Sometimes they'd ask me where'd I get that from, and I'd say, this book or that book, or they'd ask me if there's any place I could go to. If I knew of something, I would mention it to them. No one ever told me to stop. Never. And I don't know if I would have stopped even if they told me.
Really? How did you get to be who you are to want to do this?
Because there's a need. I know and have always known that when you see other people who look like you know that it's possible internally. You know who you are. You know that you have value. You know that you can do anything that you set your mind to do. Anything. Because we've done it.
That's right.
Even when we talked about what did they? Oh, I remember this young man said, well, we were looking at a description of someone who was enslaved and the owner wanted them back. And, he said, well, why they want them back? They didn't know anything. I said, wait a minute. Let's look at this. This particular person, woman, was enslaved, but she spoke 3 languages. Oh, this one over here was a blacksmith. This one over here was what is the term? Husbandry. In husbandry. There was value there. And that's why they wanted them back, because they couldn't do it themselves. They didn't know how. Even when they brought the slaves, those who they enslaved across the waters, they went to certain places to get those who they captured because they had certain skills.
That's right.
They didn't just go willy-nilly and go get them just to have a whole bunch of folks. They went to get them to help them grow their crops, to grow that rice,
That's right.
to grow that tobacco,
that's right.
to better grow that cotton, because
right.
we knew how. They didn't. And so when I expressed it in that fashion, they said, "Oh, Miss Pryor, you telling the story." And I said, "Well, I like to tell stories." So,
Yeah, I got you.
But it was just, that's how I spoke about it.
And I'm gonna go to you.
I was learning as they were learning. I mean, I was trying to read as much as I could to share with them.
I'm gonna go to you, Keith, again. What did you know about slavery?
What I know about slavery, I think I know just general stuff about slavery. We came over here in the 1600s and were enslaved for a long time until the Civil War. Basically, there were some heroes and some, I listened to, I hate to bring this guy up, Kanye West talking about, slaves had a choice about being slaves, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, man, how do you see life? There's no way that we had an option to get out of slavery, but we did the best that we could with the things that, the stories that we have, like when we look at Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad and heroic stories like that. Marcus Garvey, the abolitionists, white and black, all the things that took place during slavery. And the other guy who we were just talking about the GPS and all those things. That's an evolution of the skills that we have always had, maintained, and grown throughout slavery. So all those things I think are connected. So, that's what I know about slavery, and it didn't keep us slaves in our mind and kept us persevering.
Yeah. Did you ever have some kind of quest to learn? Let me see if this is all that there is. I'm just talking about slavery in general.
I think that even when I went to Rome today, that was a quest to learn. Everything that I do is a quest. I'm a songwriter. So my mind is saying, keep learning as much as you can. I never want to close my mind to anything. That's why I tuned into this broadcast, so I can learn whatever I can learn. And hey, I'm 62 years old. Some of these things I have to write it down because I can't just spit it back out at you. But that's what life is
Well,
all
that's how
about.
we
You can't,
learn.
yeah, you can't
That's
stop
exactly right.
learning until you
Can
did. I hope.
I say
That's all.
something? Can I say something right quick?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm listening to everybody, and you know, when you think about the days of enslavement, all of us here are people who are forward looking, people who have an idea that they want to do something further more than just the average or just the the everyday guy going home and drinking a beer at night and watching TV. So you have to imagine that during slavery times, you had people who had minds just like Mr. Smith here, and say he's a songwriter. I guarantee you there's many songwriters that was enslaved,
Oh yeah,
and they had those abilities, and they probably did a lot of things with them within the confines of where they were, and did remarkable things. You had teachers like I think somebody on here was a couple of ladies on here, I believe, are teachers, who had those abilities the whole time. Because God gave everybody abilities,
that's exactly
and
right.
and everybody has gifts. And
Everybody.
so slavery, the thing, you know what I think of this way: the USA made a huge mistake with slavery. What they think they did by enslaving people, and with greed getting further away, getting further as far as people using people's labor to grab money and that type of thing. You had all of this ingenuity locked up in chains. You had all this innovation locked up in chains. And that's really who we are. We just
Right.
have not, we have a disconnect as far as understanding how to get those stories out from
Right.
all of those years that Black people were locked up.
Right.
But what we do have the ability to do right now is change the narrative and say to the country, to the world, that this country screwed up by enslaving people, because what they lost in GDP and what they lost as far as people innovating and taking us further is a loss to the country. Because the guy that was the father of the founder of Mount Bayou, he invented some type of steering for steamboats, and he went to they took it to the patent office for them to patent it, and the patent office wouldn't give it to him because they said, "Oh, well, you're enslaved." But while he was enslaved, he did this invention, had everything drawn up and the whole thing. They wouldn't give it to the Davises who owned him because they say you didn't do it. So my point is that all of that ability is locked up in chains, and they thought they were getting what they were getting as far as just labor, but you got labor and you got wasted energy. And so, Mr. Keith Smith, as a songwriter, imagine for your whole life you out there picking cotton and chopping cotton, but you're an amazing artist with
Right.
the ability to do whatever all this artistic ability, and you out there picking cotton. Well, that's a loss. You live your whole life with that ability lost. And so I think that's all
Now, wait a minute. On just on the music part, music was always, and it always is with all of us, and that's part of what got people through the things that we go through. That's not just Black people, period. I don't know if you remember Fiddler in Roots, but Fiddler was, a natural entertainment, not just in Roots, but in all plantations. There were fiddlers on all plantations. There were always poets. That was part of the thing that was an instilled thing that would keep our spirits lifted. Even if you just singing a little simple song, eeny, meeny, miny, mo together. If you sing it in harmony, it keeps your spirit at a very high posture.
That's so true.
Does for people all the way through life.
I want to go back to this again. We started off on this, but I want to kind of go back to this. Do Black people like Black history?
I think in America, it's not just Black people. I think people are lazy about education. If you didn't come from something that would make you dig for it, most people try to avoid it. They're trying to slip through life in America.
That's how you end up with all the MAGAs, because they're lazy about education.
Yeah. And it's not just Black people. It's a people thing.
Yeah.
There are so many ways to get Black history now.
The worst thing that's going on in our life right now is lazy white people.
Absolutely.
They don't know. They ain't educated. These are some of the most uneducated white people. For some reason, we look at white history and think that they all are rich and affluent, but the majority of them are on our welfare recipients and all types of stuff. They loaded in the jail system. You would think that there's more Black people in jail. It's way more white people in jail. But that's our society. And our society is really, in America, like we talking white and Black, we have a whole lot of Asian, Latinos, Indians, and we had like they don't have problems. I was just looking at Cesar Chavez and the farm union movement that he had to accomplish here in America. That's a big thing that we're still going through right now with immigration, unions, and it's not just Black or white thing, it's an immigration thing that's going on. And these
that
people
wasn't taught when you were in
all over the
history
world,
class
and they
either.
being
That's right.
Trump is
wasn't taught.
saying, hey, I'll kick all y'all MFs out of So it's not just a Black, you know what I mean? If we all don't understand history, and most of us don't want to, you know what I mean, we'll be better off. All of us, all humans.
We'd be better off by what? I'm at a misunderstood.
We'll have more empathy for each other's situation if we understood history.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that part is true. That part is very true.
No
but I don't think you should be waiting on anybody to teach our children history. It is up to every person who is on this line to teach that history. What you know and what you're going to learn and what you find out from other people, you need to share it.
Well, going to the educators, there's been some concerted effort. We're going to talk about this stuff in depth on another show, to where they have Afrocentric schools.
They do, but they've closed many of them, for various reasons. But
did they have one in your town?
Oh yeah, and there's two that exist now. And before that, there were probably about 8, but there's 2 that still exist.
What did the schools teach? I mean, did they do a lot more from a Black history perspective? What was Afrocentric school?
They integrated all the things that we were just talking about into the curriculum. So it's really easy when you're talking about history. And then in English, you incorporated all the Black writers. You talked more about the Harlem Renaissance. You talked about Phyllis Wheatley back in, I forgot when she published a book, so please excuse me. So if it was back in 1701 or whenever it was, they talked about that. So you always infused the information about people who look like us, always. Now, did everyone have the same amount of information? No, but if you're talking, especially in a school that's large enough to have more than one history teacher, more than one, English teacher, and you can talk to each other and you can, share information. Sometimes you find out information, that they don't have. And so you want to share it. You want to make sure that the students have it. And then maybe for me personally, once I started reading, I couldn't get enough. So I was always looking.
What was the response of the children that you told these stories to? that had probably never heard them before. Did they brighten up? Did they lighten up? Did they, you know what I mean? Like, whoa, be inspired? What did that do for them?
Some of them were not. I had an opportunity. I was sent to a school, the last chance school before you're expelled from the system. And it's primarily boys, but there were a few girls. But when I talked about it, I saw them look at me with new eyes. And that's why I said, one of them said to me, "Oh, Ms. Pryor, you telling a story. Where'd you get that story from?" And I said, "Oh, here's a book. Go, here it is. Read it." You know, or if I had access to a film or, whatever, I would use it. They never said no. Like I said, the first time was when that young girl told me something about some jungle bunnies. I was like, oh no, I don't know what you're talking about, because that's definitely not where I came from. So, and but I think also maybe who I am or my reputation as to what was going on in my classroom, they knew. They knew that when they came into Miss Pryor's class, this is what's going to happen. And I said that to
as we almost come to a close, because I do it at an hour, and this is the third one that I've done. I'm going to revisit this point, and I don't know if his next topic. Do we go to Black History sites? And then on the 30th, I have a lady, and you all please join in on this. It's always the same time, same Zoom link. Her name is Rhonda Thomas, and she's the CEO of Faith in Florida. And what she's doing is, in her organization, is they're counteracting what the school system is doing to stop teaching Black history. And she's going to tell us what they're doing.
Well, you make sure that you ask her. I hope to be there, but Florida spent 20 years ago. I can't tell you how many millions of dollars they spent to send history teachers or social studies teachers to school to learn about Black history. Any teacher in the state. And then you get, what's the governor's name? You get him.
Yeah,
and then he wants to get rid of all of it. So you wasted millions of dollars because the teachers went, Black, white, Hispanic, whatever they were, they went.
Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, Ron DeSantis.
Well, I was trying not to say his name, just like I referred to the other one as 45. But anyway, so, I don't understand that. That is absolutely ridiculous. And you talk about how conscious you are about your budget. You just blew $5 million. You tell me that wasn't worth something? I mean, I don't know if it was 5 million. It might have been more. But you just blew it out the window. You didn't care. Obviously, you didn't care.
Yeah, that's so true.
But
all right, everybody, we had an hour. Like I said, I try to keep it short and sweet. And as we grow, we're going to stay longer. Check out the show, Strong Inspirations, on YouTube. Just go and look at the videos. There's 500 of them, including my man Herman Johnson, and he tells more of a story, and including my man David Head and what he does. There's many more.
Well, I know David, so.
Yeah, David Head. So any closing remarks before I say goodbye?
I was listening to Roland Martin today. He has a book. If anybody's interested in listening to Roland Martin's book, it's very informative. It gives you a real good detailed description of what's going on in life and how it came to par and why you should be very aware of Black and American history and where we are right now. So Roland Martin is on point.
Herman, would you give us the website for the museum and stuff? Let's plug it.
moundbayumuseum.org.
Is it Mound? Is it M-O-U-N?
M-O-U-N-D.
Oh, okay.
Bayou, B-A-Y-O-U.
Okay.
That's one word, .org. And then we're also on YouTube. So there's many videos on YouTube. Just type in Mound Bayou Museum. And then also, you know, all the other social media sites, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Mound Bayou Museum.
Mound Bite.
Mound Bayou, not Mount. There's not a mountain in the Delta. There's not a mountain 300 miles around here. So
No, Mound.
Mound, M-O-U-N-D. Because of
Bayou.
an Indian mound. There was an Indian mound here, and there's two bayous near that came through here. So
What's a bayou?
like a ditch,
Okay.
like a stream. You know, I think it's
Yeah,
more
that's what I
French.
thought. It was a wet stream, ditchy stream, almost like what they call quicksand.
Well, no, it's more like a stream, like a small river, you know.
Okay.
And I think that's a French word for it.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
Bayou.
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 Have you heard the Bayou Classic? That's the same word.
Yeah.
It's from the Louisiana version. It's a Louisiana
Mhm.
Louisiana version of it.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
Yeah.
What about the bayou?
What's
The
that?
bayous are watery, marshy areas.
Watery
And
marsh.
yeah, you might have trees growing out above the water, but the roots are so deep.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you got
Mhm.
rattlesnakes. You got
Well,
Yeah.
this place, it was a swamp when they
Swampy.
got
Yeah,
here.
yeah. I
And
should have
so
said that
this
more.
was the real
Swampy.
draining of the swamp.
Right. Right.
All right. I'm Anthony Brogdon, everybody. I thank you for coming on tonight, spending your Monday night with me. Come back next Monday. We got another good topic. You can and tell somebody about us. Everybody get a chance to say something. And I appreciate you taking the time out, sharing this. Check out Mound Bayou. Check out my website, businessintheblack.net. Check out the show Strong Inspirations. If you're so inclined, check out my book, Black Business Book. And to you all, I say stay strong. I really appreciate you. I'll see you next Monday, the 23rd at 7 p.m. right here, same Zoom link. But that stay, I guess we out. Appreciate it. Peace.
Thank you, guys.
Good people, good people.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye-bye.